Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode of the vlogs. As you can see, I have a coat and a hat on, so that means it's getting colder. Not quite frost yet, but significantly colder today than it has been over the last few weeks. And as we head into winters, not even through autumn yet, the trees are still green, but through today we're going to give a little bit of, or some tips for training outside on the water, and maybe just training outside in general. But now, as always, as we're walking towards the club, we have to get in, get stretched, rolled out, and I will get that video to do with rolling out and stretching before a workout, and then we'll get on the water. Oh yeah! And we've finished up our stretching, we've finished up our little bits of warming up in the gym, and now we're heading to put the boat on the water. And as you can tell, I've got leggings on at the end of the boat there. Ryan's got long sleeve, Vogel's got his long sleeve leggings. I've got my jacket around my neck. I've got my hat on as well. And that brings me to the first tip, is planning. And so obviously you have to be able to check out the weather as we start paddling down the Henley stretch. You have to be able, or the best way to deal with the weather is to have the right kit. And to have the right kit, you have to know what the weather is going to be. So the easiest thing to do for that is check the weather on your phone, on the computer, wherever you can check it, and then prepare for that temperature and that weather. So what I like to do is check the weather the night before and pack my bag the night before, so then I know when I'm up in the morning, I'm ready to go. So last night, checked the weather, saw it was going to be colder than normal, made sure I had my, so I had 3 layers on, so a short sleeve, a long sleeve, and a jacket. But the jacket is off now as we've paddled off and warmed up a little bit. And that is one of the next tips for dealing with the colder temperatures, is layers. And it's a really, really big one, because it's easy to stack up layers and then sort of make yourself and adjust your temperature. So like I said, initially I had a jacket on, but the jacket just meant I was a little bit too warm, so I took that off, and now I've got my long sleeve, and you can't see it, but I've got a short sleeve underneath as well. And so therefore I was able to tailor how the temperature, or how hot I was being as we paddled along the Henley stretch. And that's really important to make sure that you are very comfortable. And like we spoke about yesterday, when it becomes too hot, it can make things that little bit more difficult. So if you're able to make yourself more comfortable by keeping your body temperature at the right level, then why would you not do that? You need to be able to keep that at the right level. And that is tip number 2 with the layers. And as well as the planning and using the advantage of layers, combining the two, if you go out on the water and you're questioning, okay, should I put a jacket on, should I put leggings on, should I put a long sleeve on? Well, you cannot have too many layers. You can always take them off, and that is one of the biggest things. Just because you think it might be too hot or too cold, you can always err on the side of over preparing for the training session ahead, whether you're out in the water or out on a run or whatever you're doing outside. Over prepare just a little bit so that you are prepared for all situations, because you may think it's really cold and you've prepared just enough, but actually it's even colder than you thought, and then you're not going to be ready for that cold temperature. But today it wasn't too bad, just that initial coldness that arises when we're not going rowing and exercising. So once we were moving, we stayed warm and the jacket came off, like I said. And another tip, it might go a bit against the grain a little bit, but I really recommend, when it does get really cold, not like today, when it does get really, really cold, if you've ever rowed with ice on the riggers, or it's close to 0 degrees Celsius, I recommend getting hogies. And it doesn't have to be ones specifically designed for going out and rowing. You could get a sock and put a hole in it so your hands are covered. But the difference that wearing pogies makes is just insane. When I was at university, people would say, oh no, you cannot wear pogies because that's just not what you do. Rowing's not for people don't wear pogies. But really, it doesn't matter. It makes everything a lot more comfortable. It means your fingers aren't going to fall off because you're so cold. And if you're doing, say, some test pieces on the water and you're really warm and you're ready to go and your hands feel ready, versus someone who said, oh no, I can't wear pogies because I don't like the look of them, or whatever they're saying, then you are going to be at an advantage over them because you're going to be more prepared for the situation. And that combines onto all the other tips as well, making sure you're planning for the outing, for the weather, making sure that you layer up because it just makes things easier, and you can adjust the temperature if the temperature does change during a session. And pogies as well. Pogies are, I would say, very underrated. A lot of people say not to wear them, but it is fantastic to use them. But I'm not saying wear gloves. Gloves will keep you warm, but gloves will actually make blisters that little bit worse. So try and avoid wearing gloves, but that's only for rowing. If you're out running or wherever it is, of course, gloves could still work. But depending on the sport or the outdoor activity you're doing, it might change. But that will be it for our chat. And we're coming into the end of the Henley stretch there as we pass the island. And now we're outside the boat bays, cleaning up the boat and making sure it's ready for the next session.
And we've made it off the water after a paddle in on the water. Now it's time to go fuel up because remember, food is fuel. And we've made it into the crew room post-water session. Hopefully they enjoyed a little bit of a discussion about the on-water cold rowing weather tips. But like I said, the biggest thing is you can always put on all the kit and you can take a layer off. But if you're on the water and you don't have a layer to put on, well, you can't put it on and get warm.
Wise words,
It's very wise. That's science. But now, after the session, as always, it's time to fuel up because remember, food is fuel.
And we have made it outside of the club for another day after the cold morning this morning. It has really warmed up, but we've got some storms coming in, and as I said this morning, as the sun comes out, the weather will be turning for the worse as we approach winter. But one more thing about cold weather training, just because it's colder, just because you might feel like you only sweat as much in the heat, when you're working out outside, you're still going to sweat, and therefore you still need to hydrate. So just because it's cold doesn't mean you don't take as much water or whatever isotonic drink you might have with you on the water or out running, wherever you're doing, making sure that hydration is still there. Because yes, even though you might be a bit cooler to start with, you will warm up and your body will be sweating at some stage, so you still have to replenish that sweat with some sort of liquid. But that will be it for today's episode, Yam Squad. A little bit of the chat, some tips about cold weather rowing, tips over the footage of Stanhope and I in the pair. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of today's video, and we almost have the all-in-ones ready to go up onto the website. I had some feedback from them, and a lot of people asked about the last year's all-in-ones, and I think I'm going to sell both of them at the same time. So I have a one time of the year only sale of the all-in-ones. So we're going to have sort of white and orange and blue one and a black and orange one as well. So almost a kind of racing and a training all-in-one, and they will hopefully be up on the website together soon. But stay tuned for that, and I'll make a video and I'll talk about that when that does happen. And as well, stay tuned to my Instagram for that. And as always, Yam Squad, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button. And I will see you tomorrow for some pieces on the water. Oh yeah. And we've made it into the crew room after the row on the water with Stanhope. And as you could tell, we were wearing